Hello guys, we are the Reddit squad. If you want to join us, hit the subscribe button. Now let us begin with the Ask Reddit. What is the most horrible thing you caught a classmate doing in school? Get a hand job in class. He got caught and said he was masturbating to save the girl from getting in trouble and he got suspended. This was in 8th grade. Edit. Happened in California. Edit story 2. Different girl gave a blowjob to her boyfriend in a stairway at our high school during junior year. Our campus security guard caught them and they both got suspended. They're still together. I watched one of my buddies back in sophomore year take out a little bag of whitish powder that had a yellow tint to it. I asked him what he was doing as he made a small line on the desk in the back of the classroom where we sat and he quickly sniffed it up his nostril. He let out a loud "whoa" as he finished the line and the whole class turned around and looked at us. Turns out it was ketamine. Sorry for the horrible spelling. Tight. This one kid at my school had apparently been storing his cum for months in water bottles that he kept in his locker. Near the end of the year during one of the passing periods he brought out the cum bottles, pulled off the caps, and proceeded to sling them around, effectively striking everyone in the hallway with age locker cum. I was lucky enough to get hit in the arm. I have contemplated cutting it off. One time in my high school choir class, the kid next to me taps me on the shoulder and says, "Check out my new wallet." I look over and he has his pants down and standing there is a fully erect penis. Not to mention a massive bush. The hair went almost all the way up the shaft too, which was pretty horrifying. His best friend is sitting next to him and he notices as well. Starts laughing and says, "What the f, bro?" The friend then proceeds to grab his sheet music and swipes it towards the dick, giving it a paper cut. The kid with his dick out, normally a pretty calm, funny guy, becomes furious, stands up with his penis still out, and punches the kid square in the face. At this point everyone has noticed the commotion and they see a kid standing up with a hairy erection that has just punched his friend. My words can't describe the amount of confusion in that room. They eventually were both suspended for like 5 days or something. All the choir kids laugh about it now. Neither of them were allowed back into choir though. Up to this date, that is the strangest event I have ever witnessed. We had a spoiled dicklord in my grade 9 class. We went on a field trip to a marine biology center. We were messing around, and he grabbed a starfish out of a live tank, held it to his shirt, turned to the girl he liked and said, "Hey, I'm a sheriff." What he didn't know was that when starfish feel they are going to die, they release all their jizz in an attempt to impregnate another random starfish. He proceeded to get a load all over his shit, and yelled, he peed on me. Our teacher had a wonderful time telling him it was not urine, but starfish cum. We forever called him Spummy, and when he cried to her teacher about the name, she told him to get used to it, as it was going to stick. I love that teacher. Forgive any spelling. This is from my phone. I went to a K-12 school because my town is tiny as hell. One day when I was in middle, maybe high school, I was killing time from class taking a shit in the stall. Unfortunately, shortly after getting down to business, an elementary class came in on a bathroom break. On this day, I learned just how much little kids love poop. I guess they liked when people didn't flush so they could see people's poop. They all ran in yelling, "I hope there's poop," and "I wanna see some poop." Since there wasn't any in the other stall, they thought the solution would be to see my poop, which caused them to riot and slam on the door yelling, "I want to see poop." I just wiped, called the rest of the remaining shit a loss, and slammed open the stall and ran away back to class. Didn't mention what had happened to my classmates. Dude, in my US Navy boot camp class, you had to take like Navy history classes etc. Found out in a letter that his GF had left him. Took off running right as we were going into class. Leapt onto a 3rd floor rail ledge thing. It was San Diego and classes all had outside entrances. no inside hallways, and then proceeded to do a swan dive onto the concrete 30 feet below with his fucking hands held behind his back. Dead instantly. Saw him dive but only heard him land. We were immediately pushed inside by company commanders and then locked down. When we got to head back to the barracks a little while later, they were using a fire hose to try to wash all the blood away. Very disturbing to 18-year-old me. When I was in primary school there was a girl who had very few friends and was a little odd. One day whilst I was sitting next to her she lifted her dress and stuck her pen in herself and then looked at me dead in the eye and started clicking the pen with fury. I never sat next to her after that. Edit. To clear a few things up, she wasn't stabbing herself. She was inserting it. Also we were about 10 years old at the time. I was hoping for a we're married now and have 3 kids. In high school history class, the teacher was a great prankster but a bit of a nutcase and let us do basically whatever we wanted. One day a friend of mine took the teacher's coffee cup to the bathroom, came back with a pea coffee mixture and handed it to the teacher. My buddy even told him, "I peed at that," and the teacher looks him dead in the eyes and enthusiastically says, "Good," and drinks it. He probably knew once he'd tasted it, but he never let us know it. Just continued to sip it and look at my buddy and wink. Dominance was established. TL. Dr. Buddy pisses in teacher's coffee and tell him, no f***s were given by teacher. He drinks it anyway. Freshman year gym class. My school had 2 gyms. One larger gymnasium and then a smaller down the hall from it. Everyone was just standing around in the main gym before class started when we heard strange noises coming from the gym down the hall. A couple of students and I went to investigate the noise. I was scared when I opened the door and saw 2 of the special ed kids going at it, making the weirdest noises ever. It's always the special ed kids. The most special sex you'll ever see. In 7th grade a classmate of mine had cheated on my best friend's math test which was worth 1/3 of our grade in that class. The worst part is he actually tried to blame it on my friend who was about to get in serious trouble because the teachers thought it was him. After him telling me this I did something pretty ballsy. After class I went up to my math teacher and told him who really did it, but he still claimed that he knew exactly who it was. At this point I was so frustrated I quickly blurted out, "Why don't you make both students retake it and whoever gets the better score is the one who didn't cheat?" He agreed and said that both of them would take it after school, so I decided I would wait for him so we could walk home together. He simply walked out an hour and a half later and gave me a hug saying, "I don't know what I would do without you, dude. TLDR. Saved my best friend from getting expelled. You're a good cunt." In 10th grade I caught a classmate sitting alone in a rarely visited stairwell drawing something that looked like a rough building plan. I would do those occasionally, such as when designing games which involved building maps, and I figured he was doing something similar so I started chatting with him. Neither of us really had any other friends prior to meeting, so we ended up hanging out basically every lunch hour for the rest of high school. Slightly less than 3 years later, shortly after HS graduation, he informed me that on the day we'd met, I'd interrupted his designing of the route he'd be taking in a school shooting, which he'd been planning because he'd felt like everyone else hated him. I am very glad that I took the time to stop and chat with that random lone high school kid way back then. He's been a lot better since then, and is doing pretty well for himself now. Edit. Ooh. Gold. Thank you for that, kind internet stranger. When I was in high school I liked to go to the balcony of our theater to take naps during my free periods because it was usually empty. One day I walk up the stairs and see a girl from the grade below me that I sort of knew cutting herself with scissors. She freaked out and ran away. I eventually caught up with her and we had an intense conversation. We became friends after that day and I encouraged her to start seeing a therapist, which helped her a lot. Edit. Since so many of you have been asking, No, we never dated or hooked up. Edit 2. Free periods are segments in a schedule that are the same length of a class, where you do not have a class, so are free to do what you want. Some schools have them, some call it study hall and restrict you to an area, and some do not even have them at all. I actually loved my schedule in high school because for 3 years I had first period free, so I started class later, and another one too, which was my nap period. Please tell me she dropped the scissors before she started running. Running with scissors is no joke.